First and goal at the 1 yard line. Stuffed for no gain. Second and goal. Toss sweep. Blown up. Loss of 7. Third and goal. Ball tipped at the line. Incomplete. Fourth and goal. And the rest is history.
Pressure comes. Sawyer knocked it out and picks it up. Jack Sawyer headed down the sidelines. Ohio State scoop and score.
232 long days have come and gone, yet the pain still lingers for the Texas Longhorns. Now, destiny has given them a rare opportunity. In week 1, they'll face the very same team that ended their previous season. The question is, will they exercise their demons, or will they begin this year the same way last season ended? But we'll cover that game in a little bit. For hot takes and game breaks, I am Matthew Nepper, and I am joined by my arch rival, Michigan man himself, Taylor Druckenmiller. How's it going, Taylor?
It's going, man. Week 1, big games this week. Excited to talk about it, man.
Heck yeah, heck yeah. Let's just jump right in, right? So
Let's do it.
we're gonna be covering games from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. That's 5 days worth of games that we're covering. And these games start 5:30 p.m. on Thursday when the Boise State Broncos visit USF. Again, that's an interesting game. It's actually the first ever meeting between these two squads. And Boise's favored by 6.5 points. I think it's a tricky one for them. I think Boise lost their identity when they lost Ashton Genty. Sure, they returned a lot of depth. They returned their quarterback. They got an offensive line. But USF is sneaky. In fact, did you know that USF is 24-4 in their home openers? That's not a bad record. Maybe it's a tricky place to play. Idaho ain't used to that heat and humidity down south, especially South Florida heat and humidity. What say you, Taylor?
Yeah, Boise State, yeah, they lost Ashton Genty. They do return their quarterback from last year, and I believe they do have another good running back coming in this year. But
Hmm.
yeah, USF, we've seen them give Bama struggles a couple times, the last couple times they played them. So, I mean, yeah, it's a tricky game. Yeah, Boise going down to the Heat and USF. It's a toss-up game. I'm probably gonna lean more towards Boise though, still, just because they're the more proven program, and USF really hasn't been that good. So, yeah, I'm gonna stick with Boise in this one, and I'll lay the 6.5.
I think USF is up and coming. They have Byron Brown. He's their quarterback, and he's very dynamic. He's a good runner. He was hurt most of last year, but when he's healthy, USF was on a roll. In fact, I believe he was the quarterback when they beat Syracuse 45-0 a couple years back. Little do people remember that game. I actually think the heat, humidity, and the home field advantage is going to be too much for Boise State. I got USF pulling off the shocker week 1, 34-31.
34-31.
Yeah, high
I'll
scoring
go
game.
with Yeah, I'll go 31-20 Boise State.
That's fair. And then the next game on the docket, right after that on ESPN, Nebraska, Cincinnati, and Arrowhead Stadium, Kansas City, Missouri. How you got this one playing out, Taylor?
Yeah, so I see Cincinnati's the home team in this one, but I don't think Cincinnati's really going to be the home team in this one. Nebraska's right over there. And yeah, I mean they're led by Dylan Raiola. This is a make it or break a year for him. I feel like last year he had a decent year. He's showing flashes, but yeah, Matt Rhule year 3, Dylan Raiola. I think Nebraska's going to take this one. They're going to have the crowd. Cincinnati's quarterback is I believe Brendan Sorsby. He started last year. He's a dual threat quarterback. He can run and throw it, but I think the big thing in this game is going to be the defense, and I think that's what gives Nebraska the edge.
Yeah, you said Cincinnati home game. I saw a stat. 90% of the tickets sold were to Cornhusker fans. So Nebraska is going to have a gigantic advantage when it comes to fans. I was surprised when I saw that Nebraska was only favored by 7 points. I feel like this feels like a big make it or break it opportunity for Matt Rhule. And they say year three Matt Rhule is when his teams finally start to shine. A lot of people have Nebraska as a sneaky playoff team even. So I'd imagine they'd be beating Cincinnati by more than 7 if they plan on making the playoffs. Dylan Raiola,
Yeah.
he's in his icon stadium. He looks up to Patrick Mahomes. He says he wears number 15 for Tim Tebow, but we all know it's for Patrick Mahomes. And I do expect Nebraska to open the offense up a little bit for him. Maybe try to play like Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of spreading the ball around, playing with tempo. And Cincinnati, I feel like ever since Luke Fickell left, they haven't had an identity. They lack that identity. I got Nebraska win this game 24 to 14.
24-14. I'll go I'll go 30 to 10. 30-10. I don't think it's gonna be a close one. I really don't.
You believe in the Cornhuskers?
I do.
So that concludes our Thursday games. Next on the docket, Friday night on Fox, you got Auburn at Baylor. What a unique matchup. What's your feelings on this game?
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. We got a SEC school going to a Big 12 school. You don't see that a lot. And interesting thing with Auburn is there's a chance that they could play three quarterbacks this week. They got Ashton Daniels, transfer quarterback from Stanford, Jackson Darnold, transfer quarterback from Oklahoma, and then they got five-star freshman Deuce Knight. So, I don't think that's an ideal situation for a week one game against an experienced Baylor team that brings back their quarterback in Sawyer Robertson. But yeah, I don't. I feel like Auburn being favored in a game like this is kind of crazy, given the fact that they don't have their quarterback situation figured out. They're going to Baylor, which isn't a bad football team. So yeah, I got Baylor winning this one. What about you?
Yeah, I saw that Auburn's favored by 2.5. I thought that was pretty suspect. I'm not a believer. I actually feel like Hugh Freeze, ironically enough, is on the hot seat, especially if he loses this game. So I know Auburn probably needs this game more than Baylor, and maybe that's what Vegas is like hedging on. But Baylor ended last year pretty hot. I believe they had a 6 game winning streak before they lost to LSU in their bowl game. And for most of that game, they were giving LSU a run for their money. That was a shootout. But I do believe that QB Sawyer Robertson is going to have a big game. I don't think Auburn can slow him down. Give me Baylor 35-28.
I'll go 31-24 Baylor.
So right around there. Yeah, I feel like we're vibes are pretty similar on that one.
Yep.
And then we got after that, well, at the same time, I believe. I think they're both at 8 o'clock. You got Georgia Tech, Colorado. Now, this is an interesting one. This is the first time these teams have ever met, but they do share some history. They shared a national title in 1990, back when they used to split them. So I believe one team got the AP, the other one got the USA Today. And maybe this is a grudge match. Maybe they're gonna be like, okay, winner of this game, that's the actual natty. Nah. But how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, so I seen a quote from Georgia Tech's quarterback, or Georgia Tech's head coach last week, I believe, and he wasn't happy with his team. He said if we have to run the same play every single play, we will. So I mean, hearing that from a coach before a week one game isn't ideal, but they got Haynes Keen and Jamal Haynes. Their run game is really really good. And Colorado's weakness has always been their defense. Their defense got a little bit better last year after they brought in a Cincinnati defense coordinator. But yeah, I'm not sure on this game. I'd like Caden Salter in Colorado. Caden Salter won the quarterback job between him and Juju Lewis. And Colorado has weapons. And we'll see how good Georgia Tech's defense is. But this. I'm gonna go with Colorado, the home team, but I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia Tech still wins this game. So I'll take the 4.5 in Colorado, and they could still lose the game by 3, and so you still win. So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, this is Caden Salter's Colorado debut. He looked really great in 2023. Got smacked by Oregon in that season, and I think he took a step back in 24. Now, this is going to be a completely different offense than the one that Dion ran with Shadur, because Caden, he can take off and run with his legs. So I expect Colorado to probably run the ball way more effectively this year than they had the last 2 years. Because once you got that read option and you got the quarterback threat, I think that opens up a lot. And maybe that opens up some of their passing game too. I know it's hard to lose Shadur and Travis Hunter, the Heisman winner, and get better. But who knows? Dion year three. But Georgia Tech has themselves a baller. And I'm talking about Haynes King. I think people, maybe myself included, have him as a potential Heisman dark horse. I think people saw last year against Georgia that he is a baller and he is gritty, able to lay his body on the line for those downs. And I know Georgia Tech's favored by 4. I got them winning 30-17. I just think Georgia Tech comes in there and just runs the rock down Colorado's throat. And Colorado has shown that teams like Georgia Tech, like let's say BYU last year, I feel like there's a lot of similarities between this Georgia Tech team and last year's BYU team. I think we might be in for a repeat performance of Colorado's bowl game against BYU. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'll go 31-30 Colorado. I think their offense is
Ooh.
gonna be good enough to put up points and big Colorado fan over here, so go
Yeah,
Buffs.
yeah. I I'm not gonna have my biases and allegiances dictate how I go, which brings us to our
Yeah,
next
we'll
game.
see.
Number one, Texas at number two or number three, depending on what poll you look at. Ohio State, high noon, big noon kickoff. The other games were the appetizers. Now we're in for the main course. And we got a couple main courses. We got 3 top 10 showdowns. Have you ever seen a week one this stacked?
Yeah, most teams don't schedule these kind of games week one, but now with the landscape of college football, you can schedule tough opponents, and it doesn't really affect you if you lose. So, yeah, I feel like we'll see a lot more matchups like this going forward. So,
So, this is the first time that Texas has been ranked number one in the AP preseason poll. Can you believe that? I thought they were a blue blood program. This is their first time entering a season number one. You're telling me Texas has never entered a season with these lofty of expectations? I don't know. Will Steve Sarkisian crack? Or will they live up to the hype? We'll see. How do you
yeah,
feel
we'll
this
see.
game playing out?
Yeah, so in our couple episodes ago, I took Ohio State and I started to think about it. And with this being Julian Saint's first ever college action, like in a real college football setting against a defense like Texas has with linebacker Anthony Hill and defensive end Colin Simmons, I think those guys are gonna cause trouble for Ohio State. And I don't see Texas winning this game by a lot. I think Ohio State could win it too. I think it's gonna be a close game no matter what. And, I feel like both kickers for both these teams miss field goals. I feel like they both miss field goals. So, I feel like at the end of the day, it's going to be, who can execute the best in the red zone. And, you guys have Jeremiah Smith, and I'm interested to see how Max Clare does, your tight end transfer from Purdue. But yeah, horns up on this one. I'm gonna go Colorado or Texas, and we'll go 23-20, Texas Longhorns.
Yeah, Ohio State, they're the 2.5 point favorite. But Ohio State hasn't covered the spread in 4 of their last 5 week one openers. Are they due? Or is that trend going to continue? Because I feel like if you can't cover 2.5, there's not much window for you to actually win that game. Yeah, so Ohio State, they got new weapons. I feel like Ohio State's offensive line should be like revamped. I know a lot of those players play crucial minutes in the playoffs, but they added a couple transfers. They got, Max Clare, who I think could be a nice little security blanket. I feel like if Julian's saying he's got that quick release, and if he can spot him open right away, get that quick release, get a couple of chunk plays, get a couple easy first downs for the tight end. He's got Jeremiah Smith, who was held in check last time he played Texas. Texas actually locked him down. I think that was most of their game plan was designed around the two high safeties and covering Jeremiah Smith and making sure he doesn't explode on them. Ohio State also has Carnell Tate and Brandon Innes, two receivers that can try to take the load off. But when you're breaking in a first time quarterback, like Arch Manning actually started 2 games. I think he played 2.5. He was spotted in and out sometimes. I think Arch Manning is going to be way more confident in that game. He's got weapons of his own. I believe Texas's running back, who was out all of last year, is healthy again this year. And both teams are breaking in a lot of new starters. So I think the defense is going to carry this game. Who's got the better defense? I feel like Ohio State lost a lot on defense, a lot more than Texas did. And I remember 2015. Ohio State had Ezekiel Elliott, Joey Bosa, Cardell Jones, and JT Barrett. And on paper, it was probably the most talented roster I've ever seen. I'm biased, but still, it was a very talented roster. And I was I would guarantee you, like, oh yeah, Ohio State's gonna repeat. Ohio State. And they came out with that national championship hangover. They looked sluggish. They struggled against teams like Northern Illinois, barely scored against Hawaii, and it was just not the same Ohio State. Will that happen to Ryan Day's national championship program? I don't know. I think this team might still have that chip on their shoulder, especially after losing, I believe, 4 straight to their rival. Is that the motivation for Ohio State? Or is it Texas, who has been thinking about this game for over 230 days? Who have been in pain? Who had to watch the confetti rain on them as Ohio State was hoisting the Cotton Bowl trophy? I got Texas win this game. Shocker. But I think Steve Sarkisian needs this game more than Ryan Day does. And I think there might be a letdown position. Now, these teams could play again, and they might play again in the playoffs. But I got Texas winning 28-17. I think it's one of those games that the score is probably a little bit more lopsided than the game is, but give it like a late turnover, you drive down the field, Texas scores again. I just feel like Texas is going to take this one, and it's going to be a hard pill for me to swallow. I hope I'm wrong. Trust me, I hope I'm wrong. But I just feel like this game is going to play out that way.
Yeah, I do think Ohio State's going to be fine. I think Julian Saint's going to be fine, and the offense is going to be fine. But opening up your first ever college game against probably a top 5 defense in college football, I don't care if you're at home or not. But
Hmm.
Texas is the real deal, and yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So we both have Texas win that one. Sorry, Buckeye Nation. I know your boy's letting you down, but I think it's gonna be a great game, and that's the beauty of the new system is you can schedule these big time games, and you don't have to have an August loss ruin your season. Whoever loses this game, you're still in good hands. You're still in a good position. It could be an iron sharpen iron situation where I'd rather play Texas than play Ohio State's week 2 opponent, Grambling. I feel like you learn more about your team playing teams like Texas. And it's week 1. A lot changes in this year. I don't think these teams are going to look the same in January or December as they do now in August. I think a lot can change. So now we head to Tallahassee. Probably where college game day should be if they're going to honor Lee Corso. Big new kickoff. They got the Ohio State game. I feel like college game day could have handled Florida State, Alabama just because of the Sunshine Scooter, Lee Corso. That's where he played. I don't know. Or maybe game day and ESPN were trying to save Lee Corso the embarrassment of watching his team get absolutely throttled on national television by a more dominant, physically aggressive team. I mean, we remember last time Florida State had to play a powerhouse from the SEC. I'm talking about that Georgia Florida State game that ended like 62-3. That started the run where Florida State ended up going what 2-10. What Power Five nationally recognized program like Florida State goes 2-10? But that was last year. Maybe this year they got something in them. They did get that transfer from Boston College, and what was his name? Castellanos. And I can one man really put up that much work and beat Alabama by himself? I don't think so. I know Alabama's only favored by 13 and a half, and I say only lightly because I got Alabama win this game 42-14. I think Alabama, they missed the playoffs last year, and Kalen DeBoer, he's got a lot to prove. I think he's trying to prove himself. What say you, Taylor? What's your opinions?
Yeah, Florida State had a down year last year, and so did Alabama, but Florida State's was a way more of a down year than Alabama's. I do see Alabama winning this one. I do think Florida State's roster this year will be better than last year. They're bringing in like a real quarterback. Their quarterback last year, DJ Ugalele, dude is not good at football in my opinion. It was his third school, so yeah, Thomas Castellanos. But the big thing is going to be is Squirrel White, transfer from Tennessee, and Deuce Robinson, the transfer from USC. I think if those two guys can make plays, Florida State can maybe stay in this game a little bit. But yeah, I'm going to take Alabama 31-20 in this game. I do think it'll be close in the beginning, and then I think Alabama and their talent will take over after that. But yeah, I don't see a blowout here. I see a decent game, but we'll see.
Interesting.
Roll Tide.
I can't say road tide. I just can't.
Just did. You just
Yeah, I
did.
just did. I just did. Yes. Yes. It reminds me of yesterday. My daughter was like, I bet I can't get you to say 19. And she did this long running math problem that ended with me saying 98. So what do? I'm like, and she's like, ha ha, I made you say it. And I'm like, I didn't say 19. It's like, ha ha, I made you say it. I was like, oh my goodness, you had me.
Oh, kids are too smart this day, man. Kids are way too
Exactly.
smart.
Exactly. She got me. I got. So let's bring it to our next game. An ABC primetime game. Has college football started until Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler called a game? I just feel like that just gets me going. Those Saturday night primetime big matchups. I know we get Gus and Joel at noon, but there's something about ESPN's presentation. And I'm talking about Tigers and Death Valley. Now that could be either of these teams because both teams are Tigers, both teams play at Death Valley, but LSU travels to Death Valley, Clemson's Death Valley, and plays the Clemson Tigers. I think this is going to be a fun game. Now, I know LSU is taking in a revamped offensive line. They're going to bring them into Death Valley where Clemson has a stout defensive front. That could be a very pivotal matchup. What say you, Taylor? How do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, this is probably the game I'm most excited for on the slate. Yeah, you got two very, very experienced quarterbacks in Cade Klubnik and Garrett Nussmeier, and two very, very good out receiving cores. Clemson has Antonio Williams and Bryant Wesco, and then LSU has Aaron Anderson, a little short, 5'8", quick guy. And then they also got a big 6'4" Nick Anderson, transfer from Oklahoma. And yeah, Nick Anderson was a beast last year. 38 catches, 740 yards, and 10 touchdowns on the year, averaging 21 yards a catch. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, this game is going to come down to playing in Clemson and Clemson's defense. LSU's defense wasn't very good last year, and they do have a couple guys on the defense, Harold Perkins, and they got a big time corner. I can't think of his name, but um, yeah, I think Clemson wins this one. I do see it being a shootout, but yeah, go Tigers, but go Clemson.
Which one? Yes, which
Yeah.
Tigers?
Yeah, so I'll take Clemson. We'll go 36-29. Crazy score. 2-point conversions. Score get all messed up, but yeah, I'll
Yeah.
take Clemson.
I think defense is usually, I've been saying this, but defense is usually, they usually have a leg up on the offense week one. So while on paper this feels like it's going to be a shootout, I think we could get a first half that ends like 10-3. And then things get going in the second half. And maybe these quarterbacks start to shine in the fourth quarter. Maybe we get a couple back and forth big drives where where Cade Klubnik would lead his team down the field and score, and then LSU just drives right back. And then you need a team to really put it all together at the end. And which team and which coach can do that? Is it Dabble Sweeney, the proven winner? People forget that guy's got two national championships. Sure, he's had a couple off years, but Brian Kelly, 0-3 in season openers at LSU. Two of those losses coming versus Florida State, another one against USC. And outside of Florida State, like I think one of those 2 years, those teams have been kind of mid, kind of not great. And this is Clemson, probably top three favorite to win the national championship. Sure, LSU will probably make it close. And like I said, they'll probably have it tied or maybe even a lead in the second half. But give me Clemson Tigers. 24-17. I think it's going to be a dramatic finish. I think it's going to be a fun one. Brian Kelly's face is going to become as purple as the jerseys he's wearing, his teams are wearing. And I see it being a fun one. Maybe Clemson storms the field. Maybe Clemson's back in this one. I think it's fun.
This is definitely gonna be a fun game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I think LSU is gonna be good this year. I do think they're gonna be good. I think it's gonna
Yeah.
take some time for their defense to get to the point where they want it to be. But yeah, Garrett Nussmeier and that offense is, they're gonna be on a roll. But I think going to Clemson week one is not ideal. So we'll go
Yep.
Clemson.
Yep. Death Valley, tough place to play. And we go from one iconic stadium to another iconic stadium. We go to the Rose Bowl, where the Utah, Utah, what's
Utes.
Utah? Utes. The Utah Utes. How could I forget? The Utah Utes travel to the UCLA Bruins. Is this Pac-12 after dark? Nah, it's Big Ten versus Big 12. Duh. Come on. Nothing's more Big Ten versus Big 12 than Utah at UCLA. I think it's a I think this could be a very interesting game. It's Nico's first game as a Bruin, and he's gonna have a climb ahead of him. Utah, they're a proven program. They're actually a trendy playoff team pick. I see a lot of people having them as a dark horse for the playoff, dark horse to win the Big 12, which is a wide open conference. There's like probably 10 teams that are dark horses to win the Big 12. But Utah's favored by 6, and I think they win by 7. I think they barely covered. Utah 28, UCLA 21. That's my pick.
Yeah, so I was looking into Utah and I was wondering why they were favored in this game because Utah had a bad year last year, and they brought in a transfer quarterback by the name Devon Dampier from New Mexico. He had 4,000 total yards last year, 31 touchdowns, and he did that 2,700 yards through the air and about 1,250 rushing. So I think this kid's gonna be a beast. And UCLA's defense, I don't think. I UCLA's defense is not going to be that good. And with Nico being his first game with new receivers and new running backs, and it's a lot of young guys on that offense. So yeah, I'm going to take Utah on this one. We'll go Utah 31, UCLA 17.
Yeah, I guess it was a hot take opinion. I don't know. I know everybody was riding on Nico. Everybody thought he was I know this time last year, Nico was just so hyped. Everybody's thinking, oh, he's going to be a great quarterback. I know Tennessee fans were comparing him to Peyton Manning of all people. And I think he's been a letdown. I mean, he was running the Josh Heupel offense at Tennessee, and it was like not great. Like we seen what Josh Heupel can do with quarterbacks. We saw what he did with Hendon Hooker and what he did with Milton, your boy from the Blue.
Not my boy. We don't claim Joe Milton in Michigan.
No, no,
No.
I get that. I get that. But And then I feel like Nico, he's just been the most underwhelming of the three, despite being the most hyped up of the three. Maybe Tennessee's better off without him. Maybe that's a hot take opinion. But yeah, I just Utah 28, UCLA 21 just feels right to me. Just feels right.
Yeah, and another thing about Utah, they're returning about 8 guys that made an impact on their defense last year. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I think you if Devin Dampier can translate his New Mexico game into the Big 12, I think Utah could be a big player in the Big 12 this year.
And they're always a physical, hard-nosed football team. If any of those two teams should be in the Big Ten, I think Utah should have been in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
playing the colder weather, not this LA bull crap, It was I think Utah has that more Midwest feel, even though they play in the mountains. It's hard to explain. And something else that's hard to explain would be our next game. Shane Beamer, the Virginia Tech alum, son of former legendary Virginia Tech head coach Frank Beamer. I bet those feelings he's having going this game are hard to explain because he loves Virginia Tech with all his heart. He's got to go to Atlanta, a neutral site game on a Sunday afternoon, and play against that team that he spent his life rooting for. I just imagine the emotions are running deep for Shane Beamer and that family. What say you,
Yeah.
Taylor?
Yeah, so with this game, we have another big time quarterback matchup that not many people probably are thinking about. And it's Kyron Drones. He was due for a breakout last year, and he didn't fully go to his capabilities last year. But yeah, and they lost Baishal Tudum, their running back, big time running back, went to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But they bring in transfer running back from Sandusky, Ohio, 35 minutes down the road from us, and Terrion Stewart.
Hey,
He was a beast at BG, and I don't know how that translates into the SEC, but no, I think Virginia Tech's going to have a better year this year, but not good enough to take down South Carolina in week one. Lenore Sellers, their returning quarterback, Heisman candidate, they're top 15. They bring back Nicholas Harbor, big time receiver that they got. And I think the key part in this game is Dylan Stewart, the defensive end for South Carolina. Uh, he's probably be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft next year. And I think at the end of the day, that guy's going to make plays. Kyron Jones isn't going to be able to escape Dylan Stewart. And I see maybe a couple turnovers by Kyron Jones, and I'll take South Carolina. We'll go 30 to 17.
that's funny that you said that because I have South Carolina written down right here, 31-17. So we were thinking the same. I, South Carolina, they're favored by 7.5, and I think they cover easily.
Yeah.
And so do you. So that was a Sunday afternoon game. Sunday night, we got another edition of Catholics versus Convicts. Notre Dame at Miami. Did you know that Notre Dame is 0-6 in their last 6 games versus Miami at Miami? Maybe those maybe those kids in South Bend, Indiana can't handle the heat and humidity that Miami brings. Maybe a very underrated part of this. I know the weather is supposed to be a little iffy, humid and rainy. How does that affect this game? I think rain would probably benefit Notre Dame. They're a running team, hard nosed. But what say you? What's your feelings on this game?
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Notre Dame won a game in this stadium last year against Penn State.
Maybe
So
they exercise those demons.
yeah. So I don't know if that really helps them much going into this game, but for Miami, they bring in Carson Beck, quarterback from Georgia, and they lost a lot of players on offense. They lost Restrepo, they lost transfer receiver to Alabama. I don't remember his name. I believe Torrey Holton, I believe his name is. But yeah, they got some young guys over there, and other than Notre Dame's quarterback situation, new quarterback CJ Carr, I do think Notre Dame has the edge in this game. But yeah, with Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love, and I think Miami's defense is not going to be where they want it yet. I know they went and got a new defense coordinator from PJ Flagstaff at Minnesota, so I do think their defense will improve this year. But yeah, I got Notre Dame winning this game, 24-14.
CJ Carr, starting at Notre Dame. Grandson of former national championship winning Michigan head coach Lloyd Carr. That newspaper behind you, Lloyd Carr was the national championship winning coach that won that. And yes, Notre Dame. They got that stout physical run game. It's just I think it's a tricky game. I don't know. I've been back and forth on this one the whole time. I think the winner wins by 1 point, and I know it's hard to expect a team to get better after losing the number one overall pick in the draft. But maybe Miami finally got that defense figured out. And maybe Notre Dame does what Notre Dame does, and that's lose a game they shouldn't. Miami 21, Notre Dame 20.
It'd be a good one.
I think
Definitely
it's
be a
gonna be
good
a good
game.
one. I think it's gonna be one of those old fat like I think it's gonna be one of those games that look like it's from the 80s where it's for no reason you got two teams just trying to run the rock and just trying to Notre Dame's gonna play the game that Notre Dame always plays. And that's that old fashioned gritty type of play. And maybe Miami can match them, especially if Notre Dame is cramping up in that heat and they just it's hard to play a game in South Florida in August. I mean, ask Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills, when they got to go to Miami Dolphins at Hard Rock Stadium. They cramp up, they hate it there, and then Miami's got to return the favor and play in Buffalo in the winter. So, it's definitely a home field advantage for Miami, even if only 20,000 people show up to the games. Now, I think they're going to show up for this one, though. I think they're going
I,
to show up for this one.
I would hope so. But I
Mhm.
have a bold prediction. I'm going to call it right now. Notre Dame's going to pound the ball a lot in this game, and I see them opening up play action. Jaden Greathouse deep ball to seal the
Hmm.
game. So that's my bold prediction on this one. Jaden Greathouse deep
Play
ball to
he
end this game.
he played lights out against Ohio State in the national championship game. I was getting pretty upset with him. I'm
Yeah,
like, come
he's a
on,
beast.
guy. The game's over. What are you doing? Quit trying, please, please. Just end the game. And to end the slate of phenomenal games, we got TCU going against a legendary head coach. And legendary doesn't even put it right in words. I mean, this is a guy that has won, I believe, 5 Super Bowls. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember. I think it's 5 Super Bowls. And and he's won two more as a defensive coordinator with the Giants. I'm talking about Bill Belichick. Now, why does TCU always have to open these games up against these iconic or fun coaches? They were the lambs left to the slaughter against Deion Sanders' Colorado Buffalo. But this time around, can TCU actually come out of this game victorious, unlike what they did back at home against Colorado 2 years ago? I don't know. What's your opinions? I know you got North Carolina going far this year. You actually had them as a playoff team. So I imagine if you have them as a playoff team, you have to have them win this game, right?
Yeah, if they lose this game, you can throw that prediction out the window. But no, Bill Belichick on Monday Night Football, opening up his college football career. I'm sure he probably had a good record on Monday Night Football in the NFL too. So yeah, I'm gonna go North Carolina in this game. TCU, they are bringing in a veteran quarterback in Josh Hoover. Supposed to be a gamer, probably one of the favorites to win Big 12 Player of the Year this year. But I just believe in Bill Belichick. He's a winner. He always wins. And they're bringing in a veteran quarterback also in Gio Lopez from South Alabama. He's a beast. He can run it. He can throw it. They do got some young guys on the offense. They lost to Marion Hampton to the Chargers in the first round, so they got a big hole to fill at the running back position. But overall, I feel like this could be a toss-up game. But I'm gonna go with the home edge. That crowd's gonna be rocking in Chapel Hill for a week one Monday night game. So yeah, I'm gonna go North Carolina 27-13.
So I see that TCU is favored by 3. But the only line that I'm caring about is the over under on how many times we see Jordan Hudson on with the camera, on the stream. I feel like that line should be set at least 4.5. And I'm talking about Bill Belichick's, I'm not gonna call her a juvenile, but I think she's like 23, 24, which to him, that's basically a juvenile. Kind of weird, but hey, Bill, we don't judge midlife crises around here or crises in general. I guess you're 70, so that's a late life crisis. I don't know. But we got TCU, North Carolina. I have TCU winning 27-20. I think TCU pulls it together. I think they're more proven. I think Bill Belichick's style of coaching won't translate to the college level. I'm skeptic. I'm like very skeptical about it. And TCU, Sonny Dykes, people forget he went to the national championship game just a couple years ago. You
We're
don't
gonna.
forget. You won't forget. But
I hope TCU loses, so we don't have to talk about them beating Michigan anymore this year.
yeah, trust me, I'd rather us not talk about Michigan in general too, because every time people bring up you guys, they bring up how we lost you guys 4 times in a row. I'm tired of hearing about it.
Yeah, we were too. But I'm going to change my score prediction real quick. I do think TCU's going to put up a little bit of points, so I'm going to go 27-23.
Okay,
Bill Belichick, Gio Lopez is going to lead them down the field for a game-winning drive to end the game. But yeah, I think TCU is going to be able to score a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be enough to match Bill Belichick.
okay, okay. So so pretty similar scores, 27-20, 27-23. Just we got them inverted. You see a game-winning drive for a Bill Belichick quarterback. Man, when have we seen those before? Now, that wraps up the breakdowns of the week. But what a week it's gonna be. I feel like we have so many this iconic, potentially iconic games. But the problem with it being week one is come week seven, week eight, these games really don't matter. But enjoy now while they do.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. We didn't
Hmm.
talk about Michigan. We're playing New Mexico, and from
Yeah, you guys.
earlier, from earlier, I mean, they lost their quarterback last year to Utah, so I don't think New Mexico is going to be too good. But I'm excited to watch Bryce Underwood's debut, see what he can do. And yeah, man, I'm just excited for college football to be back, man.
Yeah, the first freshman quarterback to start at Michigan since Tate Forcier in 2009. So hopefully it goes better for Bryce than it did for Tate Forcier.
Yeah, I hope we don't relive the Tate Forcier days again. No, those were rough.
And speaking of Tate Forcier, his former head coach Rich Rodriguez returns to West Virginia. And what I'm looking forward to, because that's when West Virginia was at its highest. And Rich Rodriguez was at his highest. And maybe that's a perfect blend together. Maybe when he comes back, it'd be like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, Rich Rod coming back to West Virginia. That's everything you want in college football. So yeah, I
Hmm.
think West Virginia. I think they'll be all right this year. They're in the Big 12, and the Big 12 is real open. So I mean, we'll see. He was great at Jacksonville State the last couple of years, and he built that program up. So maybe he can rebuild West Virginia to what they were when he left.
Now, I almost want to say, this off script, that little alley oop to myself, the Tate Forcier to Rich Rodriguez, I did not have that written down. I was just like, what's a good way to segue from Michigan to that? And I was like, perfect, perfect. Tap myself on the back for that one. But that's it for hot takes and game breaks. I am your boy Matthew Nepper. He is Taylor Druckenmiller, and I think we're out, right, Taylor?
Yeah, go blue.
Go
Horns
Buckeyes.
up. Horns up.
Horns down. Even though we both have them winning, but I think it's gonna be a fun game. And like I said, I think you get credit for scheduling these big time games. And hopefully, in the eyes of the committee, whoever loses will still be respected in that regard.
For sure. Hey, they beat the former national championships last year, week one. I think they do it again this year.
Yeah, you never know. Well, like I said, hot takes, game breaks, we out.
Go blue.
Go Buckeyes.
Blue 14